welcome back, Coaching at South Radio. That was the entire song, trying to hook up with Gene here. Not exactly sure. Oh, here we go. Gene Gregoritz. Now, I don't have a biography of my own to read out, so what I'm going to do before we introduce him is give you the Amazon account of Gene. Gene was born in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. He is the founder and former publisher of Sex and Guts magazine, an independent arts and culture journal that ran from 1997 to 2004. His subcultural essays and interviews were collected in the book Midnight Mavericks, while his prose writing has appeared in numerous magazines, newspapers, and literary anthologies, most recently Chelsea Hotel Manhattan, Antique Children, and Paraphilia. His books include the Sex and Guts Anthology, Sex and Guts 4, Midnight Mavericks, Dog Days Volume 1, Dog Days Volume 2, and Hatchet Job, The Gene Gregoritz Reader. Upcoming books for 2014 include Dead on Camera, Dog Days Volume 3, and Intracoastal, 1 Year on St. Pete Beach. The latter is his most ambitious project to date, an experimental combination of police blogger, drug memoir, and sociological study detailing the crimes and criminals he observed during his first year living in Florida. Uncomfortable working with others, Gregoritz founded Monastrell Books there in 2012 to release his own work 100% independently. An amateur boating enthusiast and cat lover, he currently lives in St. Pete Beach, Florida, where he works and writes from home. He is 36 years old. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to Gene. Gene, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
How you doing, man?
Can you hear me?
Good, good. Thanks for calling in. I just want to start off this whole thing.
Can you hear me okay?
Video. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Go on.
All right. Yeah, my phone's a little shitty, man. I'm sorry if you can't hear it that well. I guess that's all I got to work with. So I saw a video of you yesterday, and it was a video of you cutting, like taking a razor to your chest, and that alongside the video of you cutting your ear off. So just to start off the interview, would you mind explaining those two activities?
Well, I've explained it before many times. It was a matter of finance and nothing else. The chest thing, it was a bit of psychosis that I was enduring around that evening, and it was I don't know. It was part of my life. It was just an average night, I guess. I have logged, I don't know how many hundreds of hours of footage from my year on St. Pete Beach, and it was just living hot and living, in a moment of crisis all the time. And it was also the best fun I've ever had, probably the best year of my life. As for the ear cutting thing, again, it was an economical decision based
on
publicity
stunt, basically, or
it was a publicity stunt, but it was also it comes down to keeping a roof over my head, and I couldn't pay the rent. I was late on the rent, and I was afraid that I was going to be rendered homeless and bereft of all my possessions. So, I was trying to save my cat, I was trying to save myself, I was trying to save my books, I was trying to save everything. So I figured that if it came down to, and I've been talking about things like that, in the milieu of those people, and at that time, it was known that I was a certain kind of guy who did a certain type of thing to himself very often, and so it wasn't just that was being talked about in the month or two preceding that. It was also, removal of fingers. It was also, I used to swim the channel for free beer. The channel is an inlet that comes in from the Gulf of Mexico, a block away from where I was living. Right, I was right on the waterfront there, and there was a big shark hotspot. So if you swam the channel, you got a lot of respect from the people in the neighborhood, and no one had done it, at least nobody that I knew. So I got a lot of respect there, and I got a lot of respect from the ear thing. I lost a lot of friends, but I lost a lot of friends that lived in other places that really weren't that relevant to me at the time.
So it's more than just a popularity stunt. I mean, you're kind of character building.
I don't care about that. I mean, I'm a writer. I don't.
Right.
It doesn't enter into my life what people are. Whether or not people are thinking about me, I mean, or what they're thinking about me. I mean, if nobody buys my books, all I care about is whether or not I'm allowed to go on writing what I do and composing more books. It's and that's a very easy thing for someone to say when they're down on their luck and they're not being taken on by critics, or they're not being acknowledged by anybody. So of course that's the only card you have left to play is the I don't care card. Well, I really don't care, and
right.
And this is something that I've done since I was 6 or 7 years old. I'll be 37 this year. After 30 years of it, I mean, am I allowed to say that I really just want to be able to get on with it, and the fact that I can do it in a public manner, and I don't know, be allowed to enjoy the beach. Those are the only two things I care about. Can I write, and can I get out in the water? And also, I think I can give a good life to my cat. So, otherwise, there are really no other factors that influence me, or that there's no other motivation other than me. I'm a survivor, and I write about surviving any way I have to, and and I think that your stunt was just another example of that. I mean, it doesn't define me by any means, and I think I look better with that one earlobe. Some people pierce an ear, I cut one off. So what?
So I haven't finished Dog Days yet. You sent me the PDF copy of it, and I made it through. And this is not based on this is just basically on how much time I had to read it. But I made it.
Listen, hold on a second. Are we? I'm sorry to interrupt. Are we live?
Yeah.
Some people are actually hearing this because I did an interview. I guess it was back in January, and a good friend of mine from Brooklyn, her name's Hannah. She set up an interview that I botched miserably, and
I think I heard that one. It was a Blog Talk interview. Right?
Yes, it's terrible. Kicked up a big stink. I was smoking crack during the interview, but I didn't know at the time that it was going out live. I thought that the person that was doing the interview would have the opportunity to edit. I didn't find out until later. But anyway, I just wanted to make sure I had a proper understanding of the nature of this phone call.
No, what you say is going down permanently on the record, man. This is permanent, so, say what you will. Dog Days, I read the first, I think it's the first book of it. I got to the part where you backtracked to Harrisburg. And so the first part of the book where basically the Baltimore section, and what was your girlfriend's name? You had two of them in that first part of the book. The second one.
Well, there was a girl that I was with at the time of my cat's murder, which was Sarah, an incredibly shallow and
it was the other
very
one,
attractive young lady. But and then there was Hannah, and I call her Isabella in the book. And
okay,
yeah,
Isabella.
I think both women are outrageously reprehensible creatures, each in their own individual rights, and they're both gone. So now I'm living on a beach, and I've got no obligation to anybody. Thank you.
Well, Gene, when you say the reprehensible creatures, in reading the book, I got the impression that you were. Well, first of all, I like to know how much of it is fact and how much of it is fiction, like what kind of license you took with that. But you're also presenting yourself kind of as somebody who is looking at himself as being slightly reprehensible as well. And,
Well, yeah. I'm not. I'm a very vilified person. Certainly, I've created a very bad reputation over the years, and much of it's deserved. And it's almost taken on a life of its own. It's a separate thing from myself at this point. I think You know, I've had to do certain things. I've had to. I mean, Jesus, come on. I mean, you know, circumstances have not been in my favor. I grew up poor, and you know, it's just you know, 30 years ago. Let's say if I'd been born 30 years earlier, I think that I would have had a much easier time of it. But right now,
why do you think that is?
We've entered in. Go ahead.
Why do you think that is? Why would you have had a easier time 30 years ago?
Human politics, human values. I mean, all of that has changed in terms of literature. People don't associate literature anymore with working people, and I think that it used to be almost always it was the working person who turned to literature as a trade, at least when it. I don't know. I mean, I'm biased. I mean, I don't really know about the other kind of writers. I only know about the kind of writers that have announced themselves to me as relevant or important people, you know, to investigate. So you know, yeah, I'm not a guy, you know, who's really qualified to talk about literature. But the literature that I grew up with, that I was influenced by, that I was educated by, was all. You know, it's all written by working people, and even the music too. I'm a big Iggy Pop fan. Iggy Pop grew up in the trailer park. You know, now we have Dave Eggers, and we have middle class people reading middle class writers who write about middle class values, and I'm not that, and I'm not from that, and so yeah. What was the question again?
Well, I just asked you. You said that you would have been more accepted 30 years ago, and just to kind of
well,
lead into that.
I would have been more accepted. I would have been more developed. I would have been, you know. It's
okay.
You know, I don't have a lot of time to write, and at this point, I'm publishing other people now. I got into this new book coming out called "Daddy Thinks I'm a Child Molester," which sounds like something you would hear on a Howard Stern broadcast or something. But no, it's a really brilliant book, and I think it's a tremendous writing, and it's by a guy that works in a grocery store. I don't, between writing and editing and designing my own books, and then now doing things for other people, and then having to work, and I'm also trying to, you know, just enjoy myself. You know, I'd like to have some time for my cat and to be on the beach too. It's like, you know, after 50 hours a week telemarketing, I don't really, you know, I can devote like an hour to this, an hour to that, and maybe the third hour would be making dinner, and then I got to go to bed, you know. So
yeah,
it's really difficult, and I'm 30. Like I said, I'm 36, and I'm probably at the level I could have been if circumstances were different. You know, if I were, you know, if I were more privileged, I think that I could be. I could be at the level that I'm at now as a 26-year-old, but that's not how things are, and I'm dealing with what I've got to work with. So, you know,
well, what were you doing when you were 26? 10 years ago, where were you at?
Well, I had a much bigger alcohol problem back then than I do now. I mean, I was, and I didn't have. I'm fairly educated now when it comes to dealing with matters of health. You know, the sauna, I can cook now, eating better, exercising, and I do all that stuff now. But back when I was 26, I mean, I was eating out of a microwave, and I was making my living on eBay just so I didn't have to go to a real job. And I was drinking myself to death pretty much, and it was a pretty miserable couple of years. Actually, it became a miserable 15 years or so, and because I'd been going already at that point for a while, and I just wasn't doing well, and I wish that if I'd had the foresight, I didn't know how easy it would be to just move to Florida and live by the water. As I am now, if I'd known that was even remotely possible for me to do, I mean, there were times back then where I would have $8,000 or $9,000 in cash. I did fairly well as a bootlegger, working on eBay and supplying independent video stores with underground movies and stuff. I could have taken that money and just moved down here back then. But these things have to work their course. You can't say, well, if I'd known more, or if somebody had stepped in, or if I could have met the right person, or whatever. I mean, it is what it is, and I just, I'm here now, and I'm making the best of it. I'm hoping that I haven't done too much damage to my liver to enjoy it, for another 10 or 15 years. And right now, I don't drink too much. I do get up for work every morning, and it's not that I'm trying to repair, a completely vile reputation based on vile public behavior, because I don't really give a shit.
Right.
I mean, again, like I said before, I just want to be able to write. And, I put out this book, Down Behind the Deuce, like a week or two ago. Yeah, and that was a book that I wrote 10 years ago. It's an unfinished book. It's, you can almost look at it as Naked Lunch. I could cop out to it being kind of a collection of, of notes from a difficult time, which is, I think, what Naked Lunch was. But I think 3 people have bought that book so far, and it doesn't matter. All that matters is it's out of my system. It's out there. Whether you make $1 million or you make 15 cents on something, as long as it's out of your system and you're on to the next thing, and you're able to provide for yourself as a human being, and you're writing, then you're a writer and you're a successful writer. I mean, to me, success means being able to write. So
Gene, then writing
as far as
you,
I can see, I'm successful. People compare me to Frederick Exley, who wrote The Fan's Notes. And I think that's a brilliant book, but it's also a repugnant book, and to me it's even more repugnant that I'm being compared to somebody like that when, he didn't work, took up couches, took up space in people's lives that they didn't really even have to give, just so that he could keep doing what he was doing selfishly. I pay for my writing, and other people do on occasion, very rarely, and it's not enough for me to do it. That's why I do get up and telemarket every day. And it's the weekend. I get my weekends off today. You told me to be sharp for the interview, right? But I am.
You're sharp as hell, man. I can't get a word in edgewise.
I'm bruised from head to foot from kayaking all day in the ocean, and I overdid it. And as soon as I get off the phone with you, I'm going to drop like a sack of potatoes. So,
Now, Gene, this is a 2-part question, or maybe a 3-part. You talk about writing, and I was actually talking about this at the beginning of the show. I don't know if you heard it or not, but writing as kind of an act of expunging what you need to get out, and I know you just mentioned that. And with that in mind, what got you out of that funk that you were in, the alcoholism, the bowel behavior? What snapped you out of that, and how much of that is represented in your writing in Dog Days and some of your other works?
Well, what got me out of it, I think, it's a lot of things, and a lot of it's just getting older too. But there's one thing that really happened, and it's very ironic that the person that introduced me to it was Isabella from Dog Days. This horrific, hipster girl who she's like I don't know what you would call her.
She's a great character.
Like
she's the best character in that book, in my opinion.
She's just a coiled snake striking at anything that's around her. And in that book, I'm around her, so I'm constantly getting bitten. But she's the one introduced me to the sauna. And the sauna is what I think reacquainted me with the idea that you can actually get up in the morning feeling somewhat healthy, like you have something to give the world. And I don't think that she was trying to do me any favors by saying, Gene, go to the sauna, but she did. And once I discovered that, and I was able to sweat everything out of my system. I've been drinking for so long that, imagine that, you haven't really felt comfortable in your own skin because of toxicity for over 10 years, maybe even at that point 15 years. And all of a sudden, I go into the sauna, I sweat everything out, I feel good. I'm like, well, this is what it feels like to have that shit out of my system. Maybe I should drink less. And I did, at that point, I think, make it a point to start drinking less. And if I did have a bad night, and if I did, go on a bender for 3 or 4 days, I knew I could just go to the sauna and get it out of my system. I know it's not that simple to detox, but it certainly helps a great deal. And so I started really getting into cooking a lot after the sauna experience, and making a point to just try to be as physically fit as I possibly could. And it took a long time. If you ever get around to reading the second book, Dog Days 2, I describe the bloody war that Detroit was, and just how physically brutal that was for me. But I still I discovered a feeling of health, and it took me a couple of years even after that point to be independent. And once I was able to live without women and to live without alcohol as a necessity, I don't know. I mean, things started to change for me. I started to look at things differently, and I started to write more, and that's how I wrote. That's how I ended up reaching the point of being able to complete and self-publish a novel. So my outlook on myself, my worldview, I think that my estimation of my own future has changed dramatically because of having tripped on something that actually, I don't know.
Well, now what role did this? I mean, we talked about this before. I think we chatted about Detroit a little bit because I think or at least I mentioned it to you that I was a school teacher. I was a public school teacher in Detroit for a while, and so I've been there. I've lived there.
In Detroit City, the city or one of the suburbs?
In Detroit City. I was right off of Joseph Campo, right next to Hamtramck. I was in Detroit.
Oh, in Hamtramck. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and so, I've got my own idea and my own kind of vision of Detroit, and I'm kind of curious to hear what yours is.
Well, I mean, I've seen it from the point of view of crack binge in Highland Park, for example.
Okay,
I think it was in yeah, there have been many nights when maybe I was just sitting at home one night, and I got a loud hair at my ass to just go out and get into trouble. So I would, and I'd wake up, behind a McDonald's or something, and I have to walk home. I've had guns pulled on me, and I've been sitting next to 85-year-old men who are crying because I can't afford another crack rock. I mean, sitting next to 85-year-old men smoking crack, that'll certainly wake your mind up to the realities of what you're doing to yourself. And so, I mean, I learned Detroit on a bicycle. I learned Detroit on foot. I learned Detroit in the winter. I learned Detroit, waking up in a pool of blood. So, I mean, and I hate to say it, but I mean, it seems like, at least for me, I can't imagine Detroit any other way. It is that city, whether you want to experience it that way or not. That is the true nature of that town, at least at this point, when it's become a post-industrial fucking nightmare. That's really, showing all the signs of extinction. I mean, will that city even be there 100 years from now?
I don't know.
The city itself, downtown Detroit, there are large sections that have gone back to prairie. There are coyotes in Detroit now. I mean, come on. Yep. I mean, the city's going the way of the dodo bird,
Well, I've always thought of Detroit as kind of like a little bit of Wild West in there, and also kind of like it's our own little third world nation, like right, in the heart of our country. And I don't know, man. Now, did you write about? Because like I said, I've only made it about halfway through Dog Days so far. Do you actually write about Detroit in any of your works? Anything that you get into to check out?
Yeah, well, it's the second book, the sequel. Dog Days Volume 2 finishes in Detroit, and it's a very unfinished book. It's it was written under duress. It was written in a mental hospital, and it was edited and released during a period of homelessness when I was bouncing around New Jersey and New York in a bunch of hotel rooms and motel rooms, and a lot of drinking. So it was, it's a rough book. I did the best I could with it under the circumstances. But, I hate to use, what's going on at the time as an excuse for, what I think is subpar work. But I do have to reestablish myself to do something good. And going back to Detroit, the third book, which is already half written, the third final Dog Days book. I hope to have it out this year. If not, it'll be in 2014. But that is all Detroit, and You know, I mean, it's a difficult thing to write about, and it's a difficult thing to, you know, I mean, for me to express, you know, any kind of real affection for. But I do try to do that, and I do have. I mean, my fondest memory, my favorite thing about Detroit isn't actually Detroit; it's Warren, Michigan, where they have
really?
at 12 Mile and DeQuinder, the Universal, the former Universal Mall, the Cinemark 16 megaplex, where every show's $1, and you can go there.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
And, yeah. I mean, that's what I love about Detroit. I also love the Detroiter bar in Greektown, and you know, I mean, look, I've had some great times there, but Detroit didn't do me any favors, and I guess I didn't really do Detroit any favors either. But I don't know. If I came back, I'd have a good time. But it's really the whole thing. I think Detroit is basically in postmortem state, and my history with Detroit is also, in its own way, a postmortem of myself. And you know, I think that I came to Florida and was resurrected here, and you know, in very crude manners of you know, being homeless on the beach and things like that. You know, but I was able.
Did you go straight from Detroit to Florida? Was it a direct line? Or was there some
no, I'm trying to think now. No, I went to Baltimore, and I was homeless in Baltimore.
So you went back to Baltimore after Detroit? Or
yeah,
was that the first time you were in Baltimore?
It went like this. It went Detroit, Baltimore, Detroit, and then back to Baltimore again. And you know, and during that time, and we're talking about 15, 20 different hospital stays, a lot of police, a lot of traumatized children. You know, I mean, I was raising children, and no, I was actually raising children when I lived in Detroit.
Wait, what?
The second time. I was raising children.
You were raising children?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you want to expound on that a little bit, because that's interesting.
Well, I was living with a guy who would, on a regular basis, you know, whip out a hatchet or an axe. There was a chainsaw one time, and he also had a Mossberg shotgun that I, on more than one occasion, woke up with the shotgun trained at my head, because he had invited me out there saying that he had work. I came out after the Costa Rica episode and found out that there was no work, and you know, I had to sort of seize a room in his house. He wasn't going to give it to me, even though he'd invited me out there. I mean, I don't know what he was going to do, but I came out with my cat, and so I sort of requisitioned this room in his house, and that's where I started writing Dog Days. And eventually, after 5 or 6 months, he said, you know, I had the shotgun in my head. He said, you know, you got to go. And there was a woman I'd been dating who had this ex-boyfriend she'd had 3 children with, who was like David Koresh, you know, on crack, and he lived right across the street. So I ended up moving in with her and then dealing with him across the street and raising the children. Custody battles, police, and a lot of speed, a lot of swinging. We decided we would be swingers for some reason, because we were so fucking bored and broke, you know. And I couldn't get it up half the time. So there was a lot of sexual dysfunction. There was a lot of drug abuse, and so eventually I wound up homeless, freezing in the streets of Detroit. My cat was being taken care of by somebody else who was living out on the east side, and I wound up taking a Greyhound out to Louisville, Kentucky, freezing in the snow there for I don't know, about a month or so, and then I ended up going to New York City with my cat in a bag, zipped up in a black bag on the Greyhound bus, you know, suffocating in there, you know, because if they catch you on the bus with a cat, they'll kick you off. So there I am, freezing, homeless in New York City, and a woman I know from Baltimore just happens to be there, and she takes me back to Baltimore. I don't know, it's a long story, but eventually I went up in Florida. And now that I'm here, you know, and you know, I found some employment, you know, and I haven't managed to expire under the weight of all this fucking abuse. I'm gonna. You know, I'm going to take advantage of my good fortune, and I bought a boat yesterday, man. That's why I'm so fucked up now.
That's what you said, and I was gonna ask you about that. And before we get to the boat,
with the
boat, part of the boat, but you know, would you say that right now that you're the most content that you've been in a long time? And does the boat have anything to do with that sense of contentment?
The boat has everything to do with it. I mean, my boat got rammed today by a dolphin. A dolphin rammed my boat at the front end, nearly tipped it over. And I was terrified. I'm thinking, well, you know, I've heard the dolphins are nice, and I'm out here to try to meet the dolphins, but, you know, I'm not wearing a life vest, and, you know, I'm kind of tired. I hadn't eaten breakfast or anything. It's like, fuck, am I gonna drown out here? I mean, I could barely even see land as far out as I was. But I needed to be out there.
What kind of boat is it?
You know, what?
What kind of boat do you have?
It's a kayak.
It's a kayak.
It's a cheap little $300 kayak. It was the cheapest one that I could find. But, you know, hey, if it floats, it's a boat. And you know, being in the water, it floats my boat. So. And I had a great time out there, but I was thinking I was going to fucking get killed by the fish. The birds are no joke either. There was fucking pelicans that were dive bombing me. You know, they do that, and you know, I mean, come on, you know, this is to me. I've never been so lucky, you know, and I don't want to have to work a day job. It does leave me with just a scant few hours each day to write, and the weekends, you know, and I need a lot of time just to wind down. I have a very stressful job. It's a very, very mentally, psychically unhealthy thing to do for a living. It's got a lot of baggage, so things aren't, you know, yet the odds are definitely not in my favor, but this is the best that it's been probably in my whole life, and I'm doing my damnedest to take every advantage of every last opportunity that I have. So,
good. What are you doing for your job? What are you working at right now?
I can't go into too much detail. I work the phones. I sell stuff on the phone, and
okay.
And you know I work, like I said, it's average 50 hours. Hey, how are you? Hey, I'm doing an interview on the radio right now. What are you on? What radio station is this?
It's Clutching at Straws Radio.
Clutching at Straws, the show is called. I don't know.
Blog Talk. Blog.
My neighbors are saying hello.
Station.
What?
Hi, neighbors. It's just an internet station, you know. It's not fucking anything big.
What?
It's just an internet station. If they're going to go home and look it up on their radio, they're not going to find it. You know, they're going to have to go find it online.
Oh yeah. All right. So anyway, back to the interview.
Right. Well, Gene, what I wanted to do, and we talked about this earlier, is I wanted to. Hopefully, this is possible with you because you have really long answers. Like you can go on and on, man. And I appreciate that, but I'm going to ask you to maybe try and be a little brief with these. And is what I figure. You're into film, right? Would you consider yourself a film buff?
Yeah, I mean that's the only way I've been able to cope with my fellow man is to hide in movie theaters all my life. You know, I hate people and I love movies. Sure, you know.
All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read off the names of some movies, and we're going to start with movies, and then I'm going to go on to writers. And is all I want. I don't want a long-winded explanation. I mean, you can. I don't care, actually. You can talk as much as you want. I'm looking for just a few sentences about each movie, okay? All right. And if you haven't heard of it, just let me know. First movie is Harold and Maude.
Hey, I hate it. I think it's trite.
You hate it? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, you know, not for me. And it's one of those films. It was like, you know, when I was going to high school, everyone loved the Misfits. Of course, I hated the Misfits. Everyone, another movie that was big, you know, in college circles or high school circles was A Clockwork Orange. Of course, I hated A Clockwork Orange. I've developed an affection for A Clockwork Orange over time, but still haven't come back around to Harold and Maude, and I still think the Misfits are bullshit. I hate the Ramones too. So there's a lot of popular things that I think are absolute bullshit. You know, that I'm supposed to.
How about?
I just don't.
All right, Zero Dark 30.
I just saw that last week. I thought it was good. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Okay. Video.
I like Catherine Bigelow, actually. You know what? This is interesting about Catherine Bigelow is that she directed Near Dark, and when I was 10 years old, Near Dark was the movie. All right, I was a rabid fan of Near Dark for 3 or 4 years, and I got a message on Facebook last week from Jenny Wright, who played the female lead in that film. And, of course, I was like, oh, Jenny Wright, Near Dark, wow, and I freaked her out, like fanboys. So, that's what happens. I'm honest.
So I haven't seen
you're not supposed to get all, weird about stuff like that, but I always do,
You can be a fanboy if you want. All right, next movie is Videodrome.
I grew up with that movie and love it. I think it's David Cronenberg's best film, and
agreed.
Still haven't figured it out. It's completely incoherent and sloppy and a mess, and I still love it. I still think it's the most engaging piece of work he's ever come up with. I mean, it's all right. So he did that in 1983, and he hasn't written up until now another original screenplay until he does Existence, which is basically a rip-off of Videodrome. And beyond that, nothing, right? So, I mean, David Cronenberg has let me down big time. Next film.
Rambo.
Saw it in the drive-in, 1985, yeah. It's a piece of shit. Of course.
Okay, we'll move on.
Why would you ask me about Rambo? I mean, come on.
Gene, I just
have you ever seen Jackknife? Have you ever seen Jackknife with Ed Harris and Robert De Niro? The best De Niro film of all time?
Oh, yeah. Jackknife's a great movie. It's great.
Yeah,
I'm just picking movies. I'm not like, these aren't my favorite movies. I just randomly pick some movies out, man. I'm not like trying to run an agenda across here. Godfather.
The Godfather. I don't like The Godfather. I don't like The Godfather Part 2 or 3. Matter of fact, I don't like anything that Francis Ford Coppola has ever done. I think he's a hack, and I don't like him. I don't respect him.
Okay. Blade Runner.
Love Blade Runner. It's romantic. It's dark. It's film noir. And, it was ahead of its time. It's Philip K. Dick. Fuck yeah.
Yeah, fuck yeah, Philip K. Dick. He's one of my favorites. And the last movie, and this could kind of segue into talking about John Waters a little bit, is Polyester.
I like Sid Bader's in Polyester, but I don't know.
What's your favorite John Waters flick then?
I don't know. I mean, I'm 36. I mean, I think those movies are really for. Well, it's not for any age group what he does. It's for hipsters. I've never been a hipster. I never will be. John Waters doesn't really do anything for me, so I'm not really. I don't think I can really critique him at this point. I don't really. He's irrelevant.
But you know him, don't you? Like, haven't you been running circles with him or something like that?
Yes, but I mean, you have to get into personal stuff, which I don't want to do.
Okay.
I was dating a girl for a while. It's some connection to blah, blah, blah. But, I like The Dirty Shame, the last film of his that I saw. I think it's the last film that he made. And, I don't know. I mean, I'm just not there anymore. I take life seriously. I don't think that he does. And, I take people seriously. At least if it comes to, something as important as a film or a novel or something, I think you have to take your characters seriously. And if you're not going to do that, then I don't have time for you. I think that's better left at that.
All right, well, let's talk about some writers here. And I just wrote down a few. Once again, this is random. And a couple of them I know your opinions on already, and I'll just say their names so you can expound on it. The first one is Saline.
Taught me more about. Hold on a second. Where are you going? Do you have any money for cigarettes? Shawn, do you have $5 for cigarettes?
This always happens to me on the show for some reason. I don't know why.
What? You think you have?
This always happens, man. There's always somebody else outside the interview just chiming in, asking for beers.
Saline taught me more about writing than any other writer. Sidney is my favorite writer of all time, and I haven't read everything that he has written, but I've read almost everything, and I've written everything that I've done that I like, and everything that of mine that I take seriously has been overwhelmed by his influence, I think,
Okay, and on the other end of the spectrum, Dave Eggers.
The worst writer of all time. Yeah, come on, you've done your research. My favorite writer and my least favorite writer. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, that's what I did there. I went for your least favorite to your favorite.
Come on, we already talked, a middle-class writer, writing a middle-class guy, he's a piece of shit, and he's, also wearing the good guy badge, help the children, save the children, and, let's revolutionize the way the systems work, and blah, blah, blah. And, he should be a politician. He should be a phony fuck politician, because he could probably get a lot more done for himself and in his own career. He could probably get a lot further as a phony fuck politician than he's ever going to do as a phony fuck writer. He's a piece of shit. I hate him. I despise him.
God, he must make a lot of money though, because I think I read.
Oh, he's a millionaire, of course, man. How many movies? How many books? And the hipsters love it. What the hipsters are trying to do is infantilize everything. They don't want to accept the fact that we all die alone. They don't want to accept the fact that life is inherently corrupt and that we are not savable. They can't deal with that. Jim Thompson dealt with that, in his sleep. He dealt with that without even trying to deal with it. He found humor and he found other ways around it, to live with it. He was dealing with it. The hipsters don't deal with anything. So they're causing the problem. They're not helping anything. And they're a lot of them are part of the no-kill movement, which includes pit bulls, another huge favorite subject of mine. And it's just, to me, it's very telling that all of the hipsters are pit bull apologists. The one animal that represents politicians, it represents police, it represents everything that's negative and awful and brutal and violent and loud and nasty about people, about the human being. This is what the hipster, more often than not, chooses to represent or to support. And I don't know. To me, the proof is in the pudding. They're they don't know their own influences. They don't care to know them, or if they do know them, it's only to mock them because they think they're above everything. We have a huge problem with this. I think the hipsters are a bigger threat to me than anything that could be happening in government in terms of fascism or, corporatization or feral capitalism. I think the hipsters, for me, are the real threat because these are the people that would, if this hipster thing, how whatever happened or why it happened or, however long it's going to last. We don't know these things, I guess. It'd be hard to go into it, but they're the people that, if things were different, they would be my audience. If it were 40, 50 years ago and I was one of the beat writers, these, the young people would be my audience. No, these people, right. They have different interests and they have different ideas, and they don't want to, they don't want to deal with misogyny. They don't want to deal with racism. They don't want to deal with the brutality of the real world, and they're trying to fix everything by basically, I think what they're doing is putting their heads in the sand and navel gazing, and yeah.
Gene, you write about those things. You write about brutality, misogyny.
Not really. They're not even really worth writing about. I write about them a little bit because, a former girlfriend happened to be one of them. But I think,
right.
I was listening to an interview earlier today with Michael Rupert, the guy that was the subject of that great film Collapse that was done by Chris Smith, and he's a former FBI, former LAPD officer who has been a whistleblower for years and years, and he broke the story on peak oil, and he was saying that he chooses not to acknowledge the enemy He chooses not to engage in certain things because he's feeding it. And that extends to people like Bill O'Reilly and the whole Fox News barking at people, fucking Nazi loud, we overpopulate solely to dominate, type of mentality. And he says that he just chooses not to engage in that, because he's going to feed it. And I think that that's what the smartest thing to do is, even if the only thing we have left for ourselves as the last forward-thinking people in the world is to dig your own foxhole a little bit deeper. Then do that, because you deserve to have a good life, and I don't want to. I don't want to waste the years that I have left. I have wasted, I think, my 20s, and I think I've wasted most of my 30s, to be honest with you, drinking and trying to combat things that maybe at the time I wasn't intellectually or emotionally or psychologically equipped, to fight. And but I at least now I realize that whether or not I succeeded in fighting these things. The truth is I made a fool of myself all of my life. I've always just made myself look bad, but I know why I did the things that I did now. At the time, I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that I had to do it. I was overwhelmed and I was ill-equipped. Now I think I've shifted gears, and I want to, drag my boat out to the Gulf of Mexico and paddle out as far as I can to where I can't see land anymore, and let dolphins bump up at my boat. And,
so Gene, this means that your next novel is going to be a romance novel. Is that what you're telling me?
I had an idea at work a couple of days ago that, because I talk to women all day on the phone, and once in a great while I hear a woman's voice that just melts the pants off me, and I don't know anything about her. Sometimes I find out she's 78 years old, and then
right.
That ruins things. But yeah, I thought about what about a great crime, adventure story that begins with an alcoholic telemarketer just hearing her right voice on the phone and taking down her number and calling her back at home when he gets off work. That sounds real good to me. So maybe,
yeah.
But it's going to take a couple of years because I have Intracoastal, the book I'm writing about my year on St. Pete Beach, that I announced quite a while ago. I haven't even really exactly started writing yet. And then there's Dog Days.
But you're researching it right now? Are you researching Intracoastal?
Researching? No, I'm not. I'm working constantly. I don't know if I'll be able to write Intracoastal. I'll tell you the truth. I mean that book, it's a combination, like I said, police blotter, drug memoir, crime story, all these things. And I think that I would kind of have to re-submerge into that culture. Now, there's not a whole lot of it left. I chased most of. I don't know how much longer you have. I don't want to bore you, but the neighborhood's not the same. I changed the way that things are in that area from my time last year. I was running around in a tutu with machete, drunk off my head, and
you scared people out?
Police. It's not that I scared people out. I think that I scared the police to the extent that the police realized that they had to make some changes, and they did. What they did was they got rid of the local police department. They moved in the local sheriff's department, and the sheriff's department kicked most of the lowlifes out of town. Now, I had cleared out before that had happened. If I had stuck around, I'd probably be talking to you right now from a prison. So, there's a lot of gun running. There was a lot of drug running, a lot of things that I was aware of at the time that I did not play a part in, but it was definitely going on all around me, and I did nothing but encourage all of that stuff. Now, I don't know exactly to what extent I could be held accountable legally for encouraging these things without actually playing a part in them, but I was there, and I gave them my approval.
Well, what do you?
They use my apartment for a lot of these things.
What's your impression of Florida? Just overall. You've kind of given me a good idea. We've all been down there.
It's a place where I can be alone, and I can do what I want to do. Do I feel deprived of? Pardon?
Is rent cheap?
Rent is cheap and life is good. You know, I mean, if you need a good conversation, then forget it. But you know, but if you're content within yourself and you live within your own mind and your own universe and you're creating your own world, then great. Now, you know, at the same time, I wish that I had you know, $20,000 or $30,000 in the bank and I could buy you know, a little house and have all my friends move down and live with me. But you know, and if I ever did come across money like that, if things improve for me, then I certainly will, you know, have my friends down, because I do miss actually having conversations like this one, you know. I mean Cynthia's here. My friend Cynthia, she lives 2 blocks away. She keeps me company at night. She comes over, we have dinner together. So, you know, we get to talk and laugh, but you know, I mean, she's not a writer, you know, and once in a while a writer needs to talk to another writer, and that's very important. So I do feel very deprived. That's why I was so looking forward to this phone call, you know.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate it, man. I want to ask you one more question regarding not necessarily Cynthia, but, you know, you're moderately active on Facebook. I mean, I wouldn't know you. This interview probably wouldn't have happened if not for Facebook.
I wouldn't have gotten dog days out there without Facebook. I wouldn't have gone to Australia without Facebook. I mean, Facebook has made everything. If anything has happened to me in the last 2-3 years, it's been because of Facebook. I have to give full respect to Mark Zuckerberg, because, you know, I mean, he's given me the publicity I never could have afforded for myself, you know.
Yeah, it does. It seems to make self-publicizing quite a bit easier, doesn't it?
Yeah, but you have to be good, you know.
Yeah, you do.
You have to be good. I don't know. I mean, I've also, you know, I mean, I've used Facebook very, very self-destructively. I've lost many friends, and you know, made my life a lot more difficult than it needed to be. But
yeah, do you think it's easier to be an asshole on Facebook than it is in other aspects of life? I find there's a lot of assholes.
You know what?
If
you meet me, you know, on the beach, or meet me in a bar or something, I won't be an asshole, at least not right away. On Facebook, I'm an asshole immediately, and I'm nothing but an asshole, and I am an asshole. But I think that I do have some good points, and you know, I am concerned about some very crucial, I don't know, ideas that I think that have gone very wrong, you know, in the last 20, 30 years in the realm of literature. And I mean, you know, that's what I know. I mean, I can't really, and I barely know that. You know, I've never read, you know, William Faulkner. I've never read William Shakespeare, so many other great writers. I mean, you know, even Andre Gide I've never read, even Marquis de Sade I've never read. But you know, I know movies. I don't really know books.
Yeah, well, you've read Larry Brown, right?
Huh?
You know Larry Brown. You've read Larry Brown.
I've read all of Larry Brown, of course. You know?
Okay.
I mean,
right.
I mean, I know a lot of the mutations of the original writers, but you know, I mean, I'm more of a student of the Larry Brown, the Harry Crews, the Bukowski, and you know, Céline. There are so many other great French writers, and maybe some great Spanish writers that I don't know. I mean, you know, we mainly know Céline because he was touted by Bukowski, and as far as I can see right now, it doesn't really matter how you find your writers. All that matters is that you do find somebody. And right now, I mean, things are getting grimmer and grimmer by the day. It's harder to find, you know, a like-minded, you know, person who, you know, who gets, you know, like a true parallax viewpoint, or has one, or has developed one, especially someone who's developed one organically. That's, you know, incredibly rare. I think that's always been the case, but, you know, I mean, I hope that there's another William Burroughs brewing out there somewhere, you know, in the country or in the world, but
I think they're out there, man. They're there. They're there. They just got to find it. I mean, I think some great writers that just don't even know how to get themselves out there.
Hey, my guy Curtis Kucheman from Curtis Kucheman from Ohio. I'm putting out his first book. It's called Daddy Thinks I'm a Child Molester, and it's absolutely brilliant stuff. It's unhinged. It's unpolished. crude, rude, and it's not. I think right now things have gotten such a horrible point that you don't look at writing and think about how great it is. You think about how great it could be, and if it makes you think about how great it could be, then it's good enough. And I've got my sights set pretty low, and I think that my writing is pretty bad a lot of the time. And when there's a high point, it's one hell of a high point, and I think that I can on occasion I can break the sound barrier. So.
Well, Gene, I'm not going to.
I think the same of Kurt Kuchman, because he can, realize that it's important enough that if he only has 2 hours or 3 hours a day after work to write, well, he spends his time doing that. So I'm going to publish that guy.
Right. Well, Gene, I got to let you go here, and I'm not going to kiss your ass, but I will tell you that. I mean, Dog Days was your high point, man. The Dog Days #1.
Oh, I know. Dog Days is the shit, right?
It's good. And I know it's good. It's good, and it needs some more publicity. So hopefully people that are listening will pick it up, check it out. Where can they get it, man, before I let you go? Where can they pick up your book? Or any of your books?
Well, Amazon. Well,
Amazon.
Don't get anything anymore.
Right.
The last neighborhood in town. Yeah.
All right, Gene. Well, thanks for talking to me, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I love you, Shawn. It was a blast.
All right, man. Well, I will. I'll
it was a gas.
It was a gas.
It was a gas.